This beautiful woman tied her hair up, took off her high heels, and climbed the ladder. Her sister, Yu-Ra, stood nearby. A wicked thought flashed in her eyes. She picked up a rope from the ground and pulled it sharply. The rope caught on the ladder T-Ra was using. Before hitting the ground, T-Ra used her quick hands and feet to spring off. She grabbed the chandelier and then fell. In the moments before she lost consciousness, strange images flashed through T-Ra's mind. She was in a dark factory, fighting alone against numerous thugs. She fought with everything she had. The vision ended quickly. T-Ra took one last look at Yu-Ra before passing out. Yu-Ra immediately took her to the hospital. According to the doctor, T-Ra had suffered a head injury, stimulating her memory circuits. She would gradually regain her memory. Yu-Ra understood. She slipped the doctor a wad of cash, thanking him for his help. Not long after, T-Ra woke up. Yu-Ra immediately asked if she remembered anything. T-Ra shook her head and recounted a strange dream she had. In the dream, a girl was fighting with other people. The girl seemed to be T-Ra herself. After waking up, T-Ra was eager to be discharged and go home. Today was a good day. Her husband's career was taking off. Yi Hyan and 2 other colleagues had conducted a study. They attached a smart chip called Clover to a chimpanzee's forehead. Simply by placing this chip on the head, a person could transfer the knowledge they wanted to learn directly into the brain in the shortest possible time. It was a painless shortcut to learning. Everyone was very excited. Under the influence of the chip, the chimpanzee, trained for only half a day, could skillfully play a shooting game, even defeating professional players. Upon returning home, T-Ra put on an elegant dress, but she still had to carefully conceal the scars on her body. There were several old scars on her chest and ears. Just then, her daughter was playing with a toy gun and aimed it at her, pretending to shoot. T-Ra was extremely sensitive to the act of shooting. She became tense and scolded her daughter loudly. Her daughter obviously knew her mother was afraid of guns. The little girl promised not to point a gun at her again. T-Ra attended Yi Hyan's celebratory party. He constantly received phone calls due to his booming career. Yi Hyan was preparing to run for president in the next election. Many political parties were eager to win his support. Representative Han was one of them, but Yi Hyan wasn't interested in any of the existing political parties. He planned to run as an independent. After being rejected, Representative Han was furious. In politics, you were either an ally or an enemy. Independents were no exception. At the celebration, while getting drinks, Yi Hyan slipped away to meet privately with Yu-Ra in a room. He showed no concern for the fact that he was a married man. His wife, Hee-Soo, was a news anchor. Tonight, he was busy with business and would be home late. At the television station, Hee-Soo received a mysterious gift. Inside the gift box was a single picture of a girl. This girl was identical to the girl fighting in T-Ra's flashbacks. On the back of the photo, a message was written, claiming that this girl was the one who murdered Hee-Soo's father. She was known as Number 50. If Hee-Soo wanted to know the truth, she should go to Hanun Mental Hospital. The next day, Hee-Soo began investigating Hanun Mental Hospital. When Hanun Mental Hospital was mentioned, T-Ra always felt a sense of familiarity. She asked Hee-Soo why she wanted to investigate that place. Hee-Soo trusted T-Ra, so she told her about the photograph. Looking at the familiar picture, T-Ra also felt a surge of excitement. This girl kept appearing in her mind. Could this be the key to regaining her lost memories? With this secret thought in mind, T-Ra offered to go with Hee-Soo to investigate. In the blink of an eye, the two arrived at Hanun Hospital. Stepping out of the car, T-Ra noticed a uniform in the laundry cart identical to Number 50's. She immediately followed the cart's direction. Hee-Soo showed the photo of Number 50 to the staff, asking if anyone recognized her. She was met by Chief Joe. He wanted to know why Hee-Soo was asking. Hee-Soo explained that she'd received a tip implicating Number 50 in her father's murder. The death of Hee-Soo's father, the former president, was a nationally known event. T-Ra followed the laundry cart to a secluded corner of the hospital and entered an abandoned building. Walking down a hallway, she saw a mirror on the wall. Her reflection was the spitting image of Number 50. T-Ra turned to look at the main hall of the building. This was the place where, in her fragmented memories, the girl fought against a group of people. A sharp pain shot through her head. T-Ra's memories became increasingly clear. She realized number 50 was her. The scene flashed back to 15 years ago. Hee-Soo's father was being inaugurated as president. From a rooftop across the street, number 50 took aim at the president's heart, killing him with a single shot. Suddenly, the alarm bells at the mental hospital rang out. Someone had discovered T-Ra's unintentional intrusion. T-Ra quickly explained that she'd taken a wrong turn, but the person didn't listen to her excuses and immediately attacked. T-Ra instinctively fought back, her movements fluid and precise, like conditioned reflexes ingrained in her DNA. At that moment, Chief Joe from the mental hospital appeared. T-Ra recognized him from her fragmented memories. She didn't have time to think, continuing to fight. All the strong men who gathered were no match for her. T-Ra single-handedly fought against dozens of them. When the opportunity arose, she fled. Meanwhile, Hee-Soo continued to question the hospital staff. They claimed no one matching number 50's description was there. Just as Hee-Soo was about to leave, a note was slipped under the door. The anonymous sender claimed to have information about number 50 and arranged a meeting with Hee-Soo. The director of the mental hospital, learning that Hee-Soo was inquiring about number 50, became furious. Number 50 had died 15 years ago, so why was Hee-Soo suddenly investigating? The director ordered Chief Joe to look into the matter. Just then, surveillance footage of T-Ra's fight caught the director's attention. Unregistered, no fingerprints on file, yet she had access to that restricted area. Watching T-Ra in the video, the director formed a suspicion about her identity. By comparing fingerprints, T-Ra's identity was quickly matched to number 50 in the system. This news threatened both Chief Joe and the director. The director berated Chief Joe, reminding him that he had personally confirmed number 50's death after falling from a cliff. Chief Joe explained that number 50 had been severely injured. After falling from the cliff, death was certain. However, he admitted he had never recovered her body. The director was deeply worried. This time, number 50 had arrived with Hee-Soo. It was clear that T-Ra had told Hee-Soo about number 50's existence. Their actions were a declaration of war. The director ordered Chief Joe to bring T-Ra back. She wanted to know how T-Ra had survived. After escaping, T-Ra immediately went to see her sister, Yu-Ra. She opened a family photo album. She wondered if the girl in the photo was really her, as she looked completely different from number 50. Yu-Ra wasn't surprised by her question. She quickly asked T-Ra if she had regained her memory. It turned out that T-Ra's real identity was number 50. The T-Ra in the photo was Yu-Ra's younger sister, who had died in a traffic accident years ago. Just as Yu-Ra was preparing to register her sister's death, someone approached her, offering to buy T-Ra's identity. Yu-Ra first saw number 50 injured and unconscious in a hospital in France, and just like that, number 50 became T-Ra. Yu-Ra's job was to care for her like a sister until she regained her memory. Now, T-Ra's memories were restored. Their arrangement could end here. Yu-Ra suggested T-Ra should investigate her past herself, including her marriage to Yi Hyan. It seemed he, too, was part of someone else's plan. Yu-Ra offered T-Ra a piece of advice: protect the people around her. Don't let those who hurt T-Ra succeed. After T-Ra left, Yu-Ra immediately called to report that T-Ra had regained her memory. Her mission was complete. Yu-Ra was weary from caring for T-Ra for so many years. Now that she could let go, she felt a sense of relief. Yu-Ra wanted to complete the task without taking the money, but the person on the other end of the line refused, threatening to expose her affair with Du Jin. Powerless, Yu-Ra had no choice but to endure being manipulated. Worried that her family was in danger, T-Ra immediately asked her daughter's teacher to bring her home. She frantically packed, preparing to leave with her daughter. In the midst of the chaos, Chief Joe led a group of men into T-Ra's house. T-Ra recovered more memories. She had fought this man to the death before. She grabbed a sharp knife, but Chief Joe still overpowered her with his bare hands, beating her until her head bled. As Chief Joe prepared to take her away, T-Ra launched a surprising counterattack. The two sides fought fiercely for a long time, neither gaining a clear advantage, but T-Ra gradually found herself at a disadvantage. Just as she was about to be knocked unconscious, Hee-Soo arrived at the door and rang the bell. T-Ra seized the opportunity to escape and asked Hee-Soo for help. Hee-soo called security to check the situation inside the house. Seeing the unfavorable turn of events, Chief Jo and the others fled. Hee-soo suggested calling the police immediately, but T-Ra stopped her. Unable to explain the situation, she could only lie and say there had been an unexpected incident. Hee-soo was in a hurry to get to her meeting, so she told T-Ra to rest at home. Before leaving, Hee-soo told T-Ra she would go to Hanun Mental Hospital to continue her investigation. Someone at the hospital definitely knew number 50, but was hiding something. Hearing this, T-Ra felt uneasy. She remembered when Hee-soo first moved in next door. She had warmly welcomed her, and they had promised to be lifelong friends, growing old together. Now, looking at a cherished photo of the two of them, T-Ra burst into tears. She didn't know what to do. Hee-soo, along with her friend, reporter Park, went to meet the person who left the note for her at the mental hospital. This person was a nurse. She told Hee-soo that 20 years ago, number 50 and her younger brother were admitted to the mental hospital together. While escaping, they were bitten on the ear by wild dogs. The nurse was the one who treated number 50's injuries. Number 50's old medical records might be stored somewhere in the basement. She was willing to help them. The nurse's eagerness stemmed from her explanation that Hanun Mental Hospital wasn't a good place. Many strange things happened there. Unless the director approved, they didn't even have the freedom to resign. After their brief conversation, the nurse hurriedly left. Hee-soo noticed the nurse had left something behind and rushed after her, only to witness the nurse being forced into a car. Hee-soo realized that people from the mental hospital were targeting her. After Chief Jo's intrusion, T-Ra called Yi Hyun, hoping he would come home immediately. But Yi Hyun said he was busy. Before hanging up, T-Ra heard the director's voice through the phone. It turned out the director believed T-Ra had brought Hee-soo to the mental hospital. Unsure of T-Ra's motives, she took the initiative to meet with T-Ra's husband, Yi Hyun, to investigate their background. T-Ra immediately set off to find Yi Hyun. Unbeknownst to her, Chief Jo was hiding in the back seat of her car. He held a knife to T-Ra's neck, ordering her to turn around and drive to a secluded location. Chief Jo declared that he would end T-Ra's life there today. He intended to destroy not only T-Ra but everything around her. Hearing this, T-Ra erupted with surprising strength. She accelerated the car and crashed it into a tree, throwing Chief Jo to the back of the vehicle. T-Ra seized the opportunity to get out of the car, reaching a more open area to fight him. But T-Ra was still slightly outmatched. As Chief Jo's knife drew closer, T-Ra suddenly launched an unexpected left-handed attack. After T-Ra's escape, she immediately went to find Yi Hyun. At that moment, during a press conference, Yi Hyun announced his candidacy for president, representing his company. T-Ra was slightly surprised. She then noticed her daughter was also present in the hall, accompanied by the director. T-Ra experienced a brief moment of disorientation. She seemed to see her daughter, standing beside the director, transform into a young boy. T-Ra had encountered this boy before in her fragmented memories. He called her sister. T-Ra finally remembered. She once had a younger brother. She and her brother had escaped from an orphanage together. On the road, they were chased by a pack of dogs. T-Ra couldn't fight off the vicious, trained dogs. Not only was she bitten, but both she and her brother were subsequently locked in a dark room by Chief Jo. Afterward, Chief Jo and the director forcibly took her brother away. Desperate to protect him from being killed, T-Ra promised the director she would do anything. Upon hearing this, the director branded the number 50 onto her. From then on, T-Ra and a group of others began grueling physical training. This was the director's condition for the exchange if she wanted her brother to live a normal life. She had to become an exceptional assassin. T-Ra trained relentlessly. Before long, she became the most skilled among the trainees. Finally, she had the opportunity to see her brother again. But she discovered that her brother's chest was also branded with the number 105. The commotion at the venue snapped T-Ra back to the present. She stepped forward and took her daughter from the director, telling her not to talk to strangers. But her daughter refused. T-Ra sensed something was wrong. She asked the director what she was doing meeting with Yi Hyun. The director merely smiled sinisterly. She remarked that she had a feeling Yi Hyun would run for president, and his glorious life had just begun. How amusing it would be if it were destroyed in an instant. T-Ra warned her not to touch her family. On stage, Yi Hyan formally introduced T-Ra to everyone as his wife. T-Ra, uncomfortable with the media's attention, turned and quickly left. She opposed Yi Hyan's involvement in politics, worried that the political infighting would dredge up their family's past, turning it into a weapon against them. T-Ra feared her daughter would get hurt. But Yi Hyan was full of confidence. He wanted to be president and was willing to endure the hardship. He expressed his belief that T-Ra was a good woman. These words left T-Ra with mixed feelings. After all, Yi Hyan was still unaware of her past as an assassin. Thinking about this, T-Ra touched the scar on her neck. Late that night, she returned to the forest to check the location where she had fought with Chief Zhou. Bloodstains remained, but Chief Zhou was gone. A red light blinked inside her car, but T-Ra didn't understand its significance. In the distance, He-Su arrived, saying she received a message from T-Ra asking for help and rushed over. T-Ra was confused, wondering when she had sent He-Su a message. Just then, a shadowy figure appeared nearby. He pressed a detonator, causing T-Ra's car to explode. In a critical moment, T-Ra pushed He-Su to the ground. They both narrowly survived. T-Ra realized that someone had used her name to lure He-Su there to kill them both. Back home, T-Ra asked He-Su to keep the night's events a secret, not wanting Yi Hyan to worry. He-Su, understanding, readily agreed but cautioned T-Ra to be careful. After all, T-Ra was her best friend. He-Su's sincerity filled T-Ra with guilt. She silently resolved to find the person who tried to kill them before asking for He-Su's forgiveness. That night, T-Ra furiously broke into Hanun Mental Hospital. The director couldn't help but praise her. T-Ra's skills and courage were still the same, worthy of the ace number 50. T-Ra ignored the director's taunts and asked if she had tried to kill He-Su to cover up the truth about what happened all those years ago. But the director yelled back, claiming it was T-Ra who wanted to cover things up. Why did T-Ra bring He-Su to the mental hospital? And why did she suddenly disappear? T-Ra knew nothing about those events. She'd suffered from amnesia for 15 years. It was only after arriving at Hanun that her past memories began to resurface. After discovering the number 105 on her brother's chest 15 years prior, T-Ra realized the director's promises were lies. Her brother hadn't been given a normal life. Instead, he'd also been trained as an assassin. She found an opportunity to escape with him. T-Ra, on a motorcycle, engaged in a deadly chase with Chief Zhou. Ultimately, neither sibling escaped. Her brother was killed by Chief Zhou's car, and T-Ra was thrown off a cliff. Back in the present, facing T-Ra's accusations, the director pulled a small knife and pointed it at her. T-Ra disarmed her but didn't kill her. The director still had another use, finding out who hired the assassin to target the president. T-Ra tossed her a necklace, a down payment for the investigation, and an act of atonement for He-Su. Only after this did T-Ra truly confront the director. Under T-Ra's intimidation, the director silently took the necklace. After much deliberation, she chose to contact He-Su first. The director arranged a meeting with He-Su and actively responded to inquiries about number 50. She bluntly stated there was no number 50 at the hospital. The person who gave He-Su the information was just a patient. He-Su seemed bewildered by this turn of events. To prove her point, the director brought He-Su to a patient's room. Sure enough, the nurse was lying in bed. The director explained that the nurse suffered from severe mental illness and had run away multiple times, so anything He-Su heard from her was unreliable. He-Su tried to talk to the nurse, but her eyes were vacant, her only response a giggle. Under the influence of drugs, the nurse uttered a name, Sang-Bi. He was the one who asked her to tell He-Su about number 50. The director paused, seemingly familiar with the name Sang-Bi. Sang-Bi was Du Jin's father's secretary. At this time, Du Jin's father had people closely monitoring He-Su and Yi Hyan's actions. Simultaneously, he was searching for Yu-Ra, the woman who had an affair with his son. He-Su received another gift box in her car. Inside were photos of the real T-Ra with friends, and photos of the fake T-Ra. On the back of one photo was a message: the real T-Ra had a French friend named Sophie. The current T-Ra is an imposter. After seeing the photos, a suspicious He-Su immediately contacted Sophie. She learned that the real T-Ra was dead. Despite this, still cherishing their friendship, Hee-soo wanted to give T-Ra a chance to explain. The next day, she confronted T-Ra with the photos and asked about Sophie, but T-Ra seemed evasive, claiming amnesia and an inability to remember anything. Mid-conversation, T-Ra's daughter arrived. As the girl moved T-Ra's hair away from her ear, Hee-soo saw it. Her eyes widened in shock, her face paling. She had to leave. That evening, T-Ra went to a plastic surgery clinic to have her ear altered. Hee-soo followed, watching T-Ra through the glass door. The image of number 50's injured ear flashed in her mind. A daring thought emerged: could T-Ra be number 50? After T-Ra's surgery, she received a message from the director. The message revealed that the person who ordered the assassination attempt on the president was Sang-bi, the secretary working for Do-jin's father. T-Ra was skeptical. If Do-jin's father was truly behind the assassination attempt, why would he let the president's daughter, Hee-soo, become his daughter-in-law? The director's analysis: to make number 50 Yi Hyeon's wife. Now that number 50 had regained her memory, perhaps it was all orchestrated by Do-jin's father. His goal was to create a weakness for Yi Hyeon. As Hee-soo got closer to the truth, she became more endangered, a fact that worried T-Ra. Hee-soo had been following her and witnessed T-Ra meeting and talking with director HSU. Finally, she began to accept the painful reality of her best friend's betrayal. When Hee-soo looked up again, her eyes were cold. She caused a commotion at the mental hospital, prompting the director to immediately inform T-Ra that Hee-soo knew her true identity. This posed a deadly threat. The director advised T-Ra to eliminate Hee-soo. Otherwise, she and her family would be the ones hurt. That evening, T-Ra's daughter hadn't returned home. T-Ra learned that Hee-soo had picked her up. Instantly worried, she called Hee-soo. After confirming her daughter was safe, T-Ra immediately set out to retrieve her. Soon, the family finally spotted Hee-soo on the road. T-Ra yelled for her to stop the car. At the same time, her phone rang incessantly. All the calls were from Yu-ra, but T-Ra had no time for anything else. Her only thought was to catch up to Hee-soo. She was unaware that Yu-ra's situation was even more dire. Yu-ra had stolen research materials from Sung Chan's house and delivered them to Do-jin's father's secretary. Her task could have ended there, but Yu-ra, wanting to be thorough, returned to see who was behind it all. This decision proved fatal. Meanwhile, T-Ra, after chasing Hee-soo, found her car parked at the edge of a cliff. She rushed to check on her daughter. Suddenly, her daughter appeared, saying, "Auntie who brought me here to catch snails." "We had fun." Relieved to see her daughter safe, T-Ra finally relaxed. Hee-soo, standing nearby, scoffed, saying that no matter how angry she was, she would never harm a child. T-Ra, trying to compose herself, asked Hee-soo how she wanted to handle the situation. What exactly did she want? Hee-soo considered for a moment. If there was something she wanted, it was for T-Ra and Yi Hyeon to appear on her radio talk show. T-Ra simply gave Hee-soo a cold stare, offering no definitive answer. When they returned home, they saw police cars surrounding the villa. As T-Ra approached, she covered her mouth in disbelief and began to cry. The victim being taken away in the ambulance was Yu-ra. The police then interviewed the 3 households in the building where Hee-soo and T-Ra lived. Both women had alibis. Yi Hyeon claimed he was working from home. Do-jin said he went to bed early. Only Sung Chan remained silent, refusing to speak until his lawyer arrived. After Yu-ra's death, T-Ra went to the police station to collect her belongings. The police informed her that Yu-ra had called her repeatedly before dying but received no answer, so Yu-ra left a voice message. T-Ra listened to the message, a look of surprise on her face. She then went to the morgue, asking everyone else to leave. T-Ra examined Yu-ra's body, seeming to find something in her mouth. At that moment, she understood. Before dying, Yu-ra had left something for her. At Yu-ra's funeral, Hee-soo reiterated her invitation to appear on her show. To her surprise, T-Ra agreed. She felt she shouldn't keep hiding. It wouldn't solve anything. Hee-soo smiled. Her plan was falling into place. That night, T-Ra went to the place where Yu-ra was killed to investigate. She found a pearl on Yu-ra's necklace. Just then, the bodyguard Yi Hyeon had hired for T-Ra appeared. Learning that T-Ra was investigating Yu-ra's death, he offered a clue. He had secretly taken a photo showing the secretary meeting with Yu-ra and another person. presumably the mastermind, though the photo didn't capture a clear image of their face. T-Raw, sensing the importance of this, asked the bodyguard to send her the picture. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the show to begin. T-Raw, dressed formally, arrived at the television station with Yi Hyun, who, acting as the host, chatted and laughed with the two of them. Since its premiere, the ratings had been climbing. However, not long after, Hee-soo abruptly changed the subject. She pulled out photograph number 50 and, without hesitation, asked T-Raw, "Are you the girl in this photo?" Faced with countless stunned gazes in the studio, who showed no sign of stopping, she continued to press T-Raw. "Were you responsible for the former president's death?" As soon as these words were uttered, chaos erupted. The live broadcast studio descended into pandemonium. The live feed was cut. Yi Hyun hurriedly left the television station with T-Raw. Hee-soo, losing control, chased after them. In front of countless onlookers, she loudly demanded of T-Raw, "Are you number 50? While Hee-soo was questioning T-Raw, a news report flashed across nearby screens. The suspect in the former president's assassination had committed suicide at home, just discovered by the police, and had left a suicide note. Hee-soo was momentarily in disbelief. Reporters who had been watching the news broadcast began to question Hee-soo. Everyone thought she was crazy. Unable to bear the pressure and agitation, Hee-soo suddenly fainted. After watching the news, the director also raised the same question. Not only that, but she also discovered that the deceased was retired assassin number 41. The only person capable of coercing him into a false confession was Chief Joe. It seemed Chief Joe had found a new master. The director's speculation was spot on. Chief Joe did have a new master, and that person was Yi Hyun. The director told T-Raw that her guess was that the person who ordered number 41 to commit suicide was likely the same person who had given her a new identity. Although the live broadcast had been interrupted, the incident spread rapidly. Yi Hyun was extremely displeased with Hee-soo's actions. T-Raw took this opportunity to talk with Yi Hyun. She wanted him to know that she might not be the perfect wife he imagined, but Yi Hyun didn't care. No matter what happened, he would believe her and stand by her side. Upon hearing this, T-Raw tearfully embraced Yi Hyun. But when Yi Hyun wasn't looking, T-Raw wept in sorrow. It turned out that Yu-Ra had told T-Raw in their last phone call, "The one who gave you, T-Raw, your new identity is Yi Hyun." Yi Hyun wanted to obtain the research data in Yu-Ra's possession. Yu-Ra had swallowed the USB drive containing the data. Upon seeing this, Yi Hyun bribed the medical examiner handsomely to retrieve what Yu-Ra had swallowed. Fortunately, before she died, Yu-Ra had called T-Raw. Wary, T-Raw also bribed the medical examiner. The doubly paid medical examiner retrieved the USB drive from Yu-Ra's body and gave it to T-Raw. At this moment, some gardeners arrived at T-Raw's house and began working by the pool. They accidentally splashed water on Yi Hyun's clothes. Yi Hyun smiled and said, "It's okay." He returned to his room to change. T-Raw quietly followed Yi Hyun. She saw horrific scars on his back, the kind of scars only created by a lightning strike. According to the police, Yu-Ra's body had been severely struck by lightning. T-Raw couldn't help but wonder. Yi Hyun was the one who killed Yu-Ra. As for Yi Hyun, looking at the scars, he angrily smashed the mirror. He stared at his reflection, changed his clothes, his expression shifting from cold fury to a saintly smile. He adjusted his demeanor, becoming the good man he always appeared to be. T-Raw, holding scissors in her hand, quietly approached Yi Hyun. Yi Hyun seemed to sense someone approaching. He turned around, but saw no one. It turned out that Sung Chan had secretly taken T-Raw away. Both Sung Chan and T-Raw suspected Yi Hyun of murdering Yu-Ra. T-Raw found a recording made just before Yu-Ra's death and played it for Sung Chan, fulfilling Yu-Ra's final wish. She also returned the USB drive to Sung Chan. Sung Chan had always harbored feelings for Yu-Ra. Hearing the desperate voice of his beloved before her death, he couldn't help but break down, sobbing inconsolably over her loss. By chance, Sung Chan overheard Yi Hyun on the phone, ordering someone to purchase a watch of the same model as his own. He followed Yi Hyun and witnessed him stashing his watch in a locker. Sung Chan stealthily retrieved the watch and sent it for testing. It turned out that the blood on the watch belonged to Yu-Ra. This, combined with the scars T-Raw had seen on Yi Hyun's back, made the truth seem clear. Meanwhile, Du Jin discovered a package at his home sent by Yu Ra. Inside was a letter she had written, stating that Jiao Jin's accident wasn't his fault and that she hoped to see him riding his motorcycle again someday. Du Jin read the letter and felt it didn't sound like something someone about to commit suicide would write. As for Jiao Jin, he was the son of the woman Du Jin's father had remarried. The four of them had been good friends. During a daredevil motorcycle race up a mountain, Jiao Jin's brakes had failed, causing his bike to careen off a cliff. Jiao Jin had been severely injured and remained in a coma. While Jiao Jin's mother was caring for him, she noticed his fingers twitching. Excited, she repeatedly called his name. Jiao Jin slowly opened his eyes. His mother was overjoyed and immediately informed Yi Haiyan of the good news. Some time ago, Yi Haiyan had promised her that he had a way to revive Jiao Jin, even enabling him to walk again. Now, Yi Haiyan's promise was seemingly coming to fruition. The method Yi Haiyan spoke of involved using a smart chip for human experimentation. Before the human trials could begin, Du Jin was informed that he was being removed from the project. Du Jin was furious but powerless to do anything. The experiment was taken over by Sung Chan. He was determined to complete the experiment alone and awaken Jiao Jin. Sung Chan's unwavering resolve irked Yi Haiyan. Inwardly, Yi Haiyan cursed Sung Chan for his arrogance, believing he had only achieved his position in the company by stealing the work of others. Suddenly, a thought struck him. Sung Chan's research had been stolen by Yu Ra, yet he still confidently proceeded with the experiment. It was highly likely that the research data had found its way back to Sung Chan. Sung Chan began the experiment. He plugged the USB drive into the computer. After a few manipulations, Jiao Jin's body trembled. Finally, his eyes flickered open. Jiao Jin couldn't speak yet, but he seemed aware of his surroundings. Sung Chan immediately stepped forward and asked, "Who did this to you?" Sung Chan listed names, including Zhou Jin and Yi Haiyan. Based on Jiao Jin's reactions, Sung Chan surmised that Yi Haiyan was the culprit. Meanwhile, a mysterious man delivered a box and tossed it in front of He Su's door. Inside were a photo and a sapphire piece of jewelry. On the back of the photo was written, "This is a piece of jewelry that the director's client gifted her 15 years ago." The serial number might lead them to the owner and uncover the mastermind behind everything. He Su checked the surveillance footage and saw the mysterious man riding away on a motorcycle. With only a rear view, she had no way of knowing who sent the photo. Just then, He Su received a call from her colleague, Park. Reporter Park accompanied He Su to investigate. Suddenly, a cry for help from Park came through the phone. The voice on the other end demanded He Su's presence in exchange for Park's safety. He Su went to the designated location. Coincidentally, T. Ra saw her. T. Ra noticed someone following He Su as she approached the place where Reporter Park was being held. T. Ra immediately intervened and fought the individual. After removing the person's mask, T. Ra was shocked to discover it was her own bodyguard. It turned out he was acting on the director's orders to eliminate He Su. Unaware of the situation unfolding behind her, He Su proceeded inside and eventually found Reporter Park lying on the ground. Meanwhile, T. Ra continued fighting her bodyguard. She ripped his shirt open and saw the number 105 inches on his chest. T. Ra was stunned. He was her long-lost brother. The bodyguard raised a knife. T. Ra closed her eyes, not out of fear, but gratitude that her brother was alive. T. Ra immediately confronted the director, demanding, "Why didn't you tell me my brother was still alive?" Before the director could answer, the bodyguard rushed in to protect her, affectionately calling her mother. T. Ra was astonished at the extent of the director's manipulation. The director didn't reprimand T. Ra. Instead, she instructed the bodyguard to bandage T. Ra's shoulder. After that, she dismissed him and explained, "He was hit by a car years ago and broke his leg. I took him in, cared for him, and took him under my wing." T. Ra scoffed at the director's hypocrisy. "Weren't you the one who ordered the car to hit him?" The director immediately retorted, "Injuring the bodyguard was entirely Chief Zhou's doing. It had nothing to do with me." Then, she tried to appease T. Ra. "We're in the same boat. If the events of 15 years ago come to light, the one in the most danger is your brother. If you want to protect him, you need to be nice to me." T. Ra, wanting to protect her brother, reluctantly backed down. That night, as the bodyguard escorted T-Ra home, she repeatedly apologized to him. T-Ra explained that she had lost her memory after falling from the cliff and hadn't returned to Hanon Hospital to look for him. She assured him she never abandoned him. She urged him to leave the director's service. But the bodyguard reacted fiercely. "You are not allowed to speak ill of the director." At that moment, Yi Hyan, standing on the second floor, overheard their conversation. Reporter Park continued investigating the list of sapphire buyers. Only one person's identity remained unconfirmed. The individual, named Jet Zhang, purchased the gem under the company name Z. Du Jin, upon seeing the name, suddenly remembered his father. To facilitate accepting bribes, his father had registered a company with the abbreviated name Z. This discovery led Du Jin to suspect that his father was the one who bought the sapphire and hired the assassin who targeted the former president. That year, during a project overseen by Du Jin's father, corruption led to someone's death. Du Jin's father covered it up. The righteous president decided to rectify the wrong and announced that after his inauguration, he would address the incident. Despite Du Jin's father leveraging their friendship to dissuade him, the president remained firm. So, Du Jin's father declared, "If the president insists on doing this, I won't go down without a fight." Reporter Park continued investigating Z Corporation and found Jet Zhang's passport information. He packaged the documents and sent them to He Su. However, after overhearing this, Du Jin intercepted the courier. He opened the package and discovered the person in the documents was his own father. At that moment, he realized his father was the one who murdered He Su's father. Meanwhile, He Su waited for the courier, but it never arrived. After inquiring, she learned that Du Jin had already signed for it. Suspicious, she asked Reporter Park to send her another copy. Soon after, He Su received the documents. Finally, she saw Du Jin's true colors. T-Ra brought food to the research institute. Ostensibly, she was bringing food for Sung Chan, but they were actually discussing Jiao Jin's situation. Sung Chan said that Yi Hyan was likely responsible for Jiao Jin's accident. But T-Ra wondered, if that's the case, why does Yi Hyan still want Jiao Jin to wake up? It wouldn't be beneficial for him. T-Ra thought for a moment and then asked Sung Chan for a favor. She went to Yi Hyan's campaign office and installed hidden cameras under the desk and on a cabinet. Sung Chan hacked into Yi Hyan's car camera. Yi Hyan's image immediately appeared on the screen. Just then, he received a call. He made plans to meet the caller later that day. Meanwhile, Sung Chan's research reached an impasse. Although Jiao Jin was conscious, he couldn't speak. Sung Chan was frustrated. He then checked Yi Hyan's car camera and saw Yi Hyan interacting with a man wearing a helmet. He was curious about the man's identity. T-Ra continued monitoring Yi Hyan's every move. She saw the incoming call on his phone. T-Ra rewound the video to check the caller's number and entered it into her phone. The result displayed the secretary's name. Based on the timing, Yi Hyan went to the Kyuno Corporation and confronted Du Jin's father. He revealed how, 20 years prior, Du Jin's father stole Dr. Kim's research and killed her to silence her. He then fabricated a scandal, claiming Dr. Kim embezzled research funds. After being exposed, Dr. Kim was forced to flee and died in a car accident. It was clear that Du Jin's father had coerced Dr. Kim into conducting human experimentation. Yi Hyan stated, "Dr. Kim was just a pitiful scapegoat." Du Jin's father was shocked and swore he wasn't the one who killed Dr. Kim. But Yi Hyan remained unmoved, saying, "One day, Du Jin will also know that the source of all these crimes is his father." Upon hearing this, Du Jin's father suddenly collapsed, clutching his chest. The secretary rushed to his aid, but he exchanged a knowing glance with Yi Hyan. The director was also collaborating with Yi Hyan. She was willing to help him eliminate his enemies. At this time, the person funding Representative Han and the director was drunkenly celebrating their impending victory. Not far away, a bodyguard aimed his sniper rifle at the director. T-Ra was following, having overheard the bodyguard's phone conversation and realizing he would act that night. However, T-Ra couldn't stop him. The director was killed. T-Ra asked the bodyguard, her eyes filled with tears, "Why did you do this?" But the bodyguard's face remained expressionless. "Honestly, you've always been a killing machine. You do whatever the director says, just like 15 years ago. The memory flashes back to the day Hee-Soo's father was murdered. T-Ra didn't pull the trigger. She turned around and discovered the shooter was a bodyguard on the roof of the adjacent building. At that time, the bodyguard wanted to see his sister and was manipulated by the director. If number 50 didn't shoot, he had to complete the mission in his place. Otherwise, T-Ra would die. So, the person who shot Hee-Soo's father that day was actually T-Ra's younger brother. Immediately after the incident, T-Ra fled with her brother. She saw the number 105 on his chest. Later, she learned her brother was also controlled by the director. During their escape, her brother fell in the middle of the road. A car was speeding towards him. Back in the present, the bodyguard tells T-Ra, both past and present, his tragic life, destined to kill on command, is his fate. T-Ra hugs her brother, hoping he can forget the past and start over. The bodyguard asks T-Ra if she can give up everything she has now, including her husband and child, to live only for him. T-Ra hesitates. Seeing her reaction, the bodyguard understands. Yi Hyan feels a little uneasy. After all, the bodyguard is T-Ra's biological brother. But the director has complete faith in him. For 15 years, she raised him like a mother. They've developed a mother-son bond. T-Ra goes to Jio Jin. Unexpectedly, Jio Jin suddenly wakes up. He holds T-Ra's hand. T-Ra is about to call Sung Chan, but Jio Jin stops her. He says he can't let anyone know he's awake yet. He also wants to see someone. The person Jio Jin wants to see is his mother. T-Ra finds Jio Jin's mother and quietly brings her to the lab. Seeing her son awake, Jio Jin's mother cries with joy and wants to take him away immediately. But Jio Jin still has things to investigate. He can only stay here. His mother is confused. Why didn't you tell Yi Hyan and Sung Chan that you're awake? Hearing this, Jio Jin reveals the truth to his mother. They are the ones who put him in this state. Jio Jin asks his mother to find information about a person named Su Young. Since Jio Jin's accident, Su Young has also disappeared. Jio Jin believes Su Young is the key to uncovering the truth about the accident. During this time, Jio Jin could actually hear voices from the outside world. What he heard most were conversations between Yi Hyan and Sung Chan. He guesses Yi Hyan wants to wake him up to test the chip and steal his research results. Jio Jin is filled with hatred for those who harmed him. He transforms his hatred into a will to survive. Therefore, he endured intense pain and healed himself. Eventually, he will expose all those who did wrong. Sung Chan calls Yi Hyan to the lab, revealing the secret that he installed surveillance cameras in Yi Hyan's office. Yi Hyan is slightly angry, but Sung Chan explains that T-Ra asked him to do it. Because his love for Yu-Ra hadn't ended, he agreed to T-Ra's request. But now he's come to his senses. He quickly confesses and begs Yi Hyan for forgiveness. Seeing Yi Hyan's silence, his calm and confident demeanor successfully evokes fear in Sung Chan. Finally, Yi Hyan extends his hand and places it on Sung Chan's shoulder. He emphasizes the special friendship between them. Sung Chan handled the Su Young matter 7 years ago very well. Now it's the same with Jio Jin. Yi Hyan doesn't want any risks. Their conversation reaches Jio Jin's ears word for word. He thinks back to the moment of the accident. Back then, his wheels slipped when he fell off the cliff. He was held by the safety rope at the cliff's edge. After Jio Jin cried for help, a person dressed in black approached. But instead of rescuing him, the person pulled out a knife and cut the rope. Now, Jio Jin suspects that the man in black who harmed him is either Yi Hyan or Sung Chan. Tonight, T-Ra is attending a party. The director is also one of the guests. T-Ra, after being meticulously prepared by a stylist, appears stunning at the party. She holds Yi Hyan's hand, attracting everyone's attention. Assemblyman Han is also in attendance. He is shocked to see the bodyguard standing behind T-Ra. Assemblyman Han approaches T-Ra and pulls out some photos. Earlier, the police investigated Director Song's death. They concluded that he died of acute myocardial infarction caused by pufferfish poisoning. However, Assemblyman Han feels there are unanswered questions. He questions T-Ra. Why was the bodyguard near the scene of Director Song's accident? Assemblyman Han expresses suspicion that Yi Hyan might be connected to Director Song's death. Hearing this, Yi Hyan, the director, and the others feel as though they're facing a formidable enemy. Yi Hyan privately complains to the director that she didn't do a good job cleaning up the aftermath, allowing the photos to leak. The director suspects that the despicable Chief Joe is behind this. She immediately says she'll fire the bodyguard to avoid further trouble. T-Ra overhears their conversation. From this, she confirms two things. First, Yi Hyan and the director are indeed in league with each other. Second, the bodyguard is in danger. T-Ra immediately goes to save the bodyguard. The bodyguard has been led down to the parking garage. On the way, someone attempts to eliminate him. He nearly faints. Fortunately, T-Ra arrives just in time to rescue him. T-Ra still has something to handle, so she has to leave for a moment. The bodyguard asks her, "Will you come back?" T-Ra replies affirmatively. Then she returns to the ballroom. T-Ra creates a malfunction in the electrical circuit. When the ballroom is plunged into darkness, T-Ra puts on night vision goggles and locates the director. The director hears T-Ra's voice. She grabs her weapon and swings it in the dark. T-Ra grabs her own weapon and kills the director. Then, she returns to Yi Hyan's side, coldly looking at the director's body. She only appears slightly tense. Yi Hyan curiously asks T-Ra where she just went. T-Ra lies, saying she went to the restroom. As she speaks, she hides something unusual on her right wrist. With a murder having occurred, Assemblyman Han is agitated. He stands in the ballroom and loudly directs everyone. At this moment, the bodyguard, hiding in a corner, suddenly turns and runs, attracting Assemblyman Han's attention. He points at the bodyguard and yells, "That's the murderer," then calls for all the security guards to chase him. The bodyguard acts as a diversion. Yi Hyan immediately leads T-Ra away. Although the ballroom is blocked off, Yi Hyan uses his status as a presidential candidate to leave first. Only after leaving does T-Ra release her right wrist. A security guard sees blood on her sleeve. The police arrive quickly. They question witnesses at the scene. Assemblyman Han hears that Yi Hyan and T-Ra left early. He becomes agitated again, pointing out that Yi Hyan and his wife are the most suspicious, because the man who ran away after the incident was T-Ra's bodyguard. After returning home, T-Ra immediately hides the dress she wore at the party. Then, she receives a call from the bodyguard, learning that he escaped and returned to Hanun Hospital. She breathes a sigh of relief. Late that night, T-Ra and the bodyguard destroy Hanun Hospital. They steal all of the director's money and distribute it to the assassins under her command. T-Ra gives them a choice: stay and take the blame for the director, or take the money and break free. Unsurprisingly, everyone chooses to leave. Then, the bodyguard takes the motherboard of the surveillance system. T-Ra destroys all the machinery. Now, the bodyguard can't be seen. To protect him, T-Ra entrusts him to Jiao Jin's mother. She doesn't ask too many questions and agrees. After all, T-Ra helped in saving Jiao Jin. Thanks to Assemblyman Han's testimony, the police arrived at Yi Hyan's house the following day. They questioned both husband and wife. At the same time, they began searching the house for the dress T-Ra had worn the previous night, as the police had received a tip from the security guard about blood on T-Ra's clothes. While the police were searching, Yi Hyan proactively produced the dress. Strangely, the bloodstain on the sleeve had been long cleaned. Just like that, T-Ra escaped suspicion. She suspected Yi Hyan was behind this, fearing he had guessed the truth. T-Ra then called her stylist and confirmed her suspicions. It was indeed Yi Hyan's plan. The dress he gave to the police was a new one the stylist had urgently purchased. Assemblyman Han spread rumors, including one about T-Ra committing murder, and another about the chairman accepting bribes. The spreading rumors forced Yi Hyan to hold a press conference. He asserted that he had never accepted money from the chairman. If any scandal came to light, he would immediately withdraw from the election. That evening, as soon as Yi Hyan returned home, T-Ra held a gun to his head. She was tired of playing cat and mouse with him. He knew exactly who she was and what she had done. Yet he remained in the shadows, manipulating events. T-Ra demanded to know his purpose in giving her her current identity. Yi Hyan revealed another secret. 20 years prior, due to a car accident orchestrated by Du Jin's father, both T-Ra and Yi Hyan lost their parents on the same night. Afterward, T-Ra took her younger brother to Hanun Hospital and became an assassin. After his parents' deaths, Yi Hyan secretly investigated. One day, near Hanun Hospital, he stumbled upon T-Ra falling from a cliff. He instantly recognized her as a fellow survivor of the car accident. So, Yi Hyan saved her and gave her a new identity. From then on, everything about T-Ra's life trajectory was under Yi Hyan's deliberate guidance, including arranging for her to meet Hee-Soo and become best friends. In truth, Yi Hyan had long anticipated this confrontation. He had hoped that after T-Ra regained her memory, she would question him and express gratitude. But T-Ra felt no gratitude. Instead, she felt even more pain. She carried the weight of many sins. The recovered memories were like Pandora's box. Once opened, there would be no peace. She couldn't focus on being Yi Hyan's first lady. After speaking, she raised the gun again. At that moment, their daughter returned home. T-Ra hastily hid the weapon. After their daughter happily ran off, Yi Hyan urged T-Ra to see how happy her current life was. If T-Ra played along, she could live like this forever. He also warned her to stop contacting her bodyguard, because a happy family couldn't accommodate him. After laying his cards on the table with T-Ra, Yi Hyan went to see Do Jin's father, demanding he hand over the Jumjo Corporation as compensation for the murder of Yi Hyan's mother. Do Jin's father, enraged, ordered his secretary to throw Yi Hyan out, but the secretary remained motionless. He was already on Yi Hyan's side. The story flashed back 15 years. When T-Ra and her brother were taken away, Yi Hyan had instigated the secretary to betray Do Jin's father. It turned out that Yi Hyan hadn't been entirely unconscious during the car accident. He had used his phone to record a conversation between the secretary and Do Jin's father. After the secretary caused the car accident, this recording was enough evidence to prove his act of murder. Yi Hyan could see that the secretary didn't want to do these dirty deeds. It was all under duress from Do Jin's father. Therefore, Yi Hyan made a promise: if the secretary sided with him, he would ensure his escape from Do Jin's father's clutches. In truth, the secretary had always harbored resentment towards Do Jin's father. Do Jin's father had ordered him to assassinate the former president, who was also Hee-Soo's father. The secretary urged Do Jin's father to reconsider, but instead, he was taught a lesson in blind obedience. From that point on, he began meticulously collecting evidence to one day bring down Do Jin's father. Upon hearing this, Do Jin's father flew into a rage. He suffered a sudden attack, collapsing to the ground in pain. Yi Hyan watched coldly for a moment before finally calling for an ambulance, feeling that Do Jin's father's time hadn't come yet. Do Jin rushed to the hospital. Yi Hyan presented him with two choices: choose his father and retain Jumjo Group, but under Yi Hyan's company. Choose Hee-Soo and have her expose Do Jin's father's hiring of an assassin to kill the former president, leading to the destruction of both Jumjo Group and his father. After agonizing over the decision, Do Jin chose his father. He attended a press conference and announced Jumjo Group's acquisition by Yi Hyan's company. Hee-Soo was furious. Do Jin's actions felt like a betrayal, but he had his own reasons. He and Hee-Soo could never go back to the way things were. If he lost both his father and Jumjo Group, he would truly lose everything. After saying this, the secretary approached and rendered Hee-Soo unconscious. Yi Hyan told Do Jin he would send Hee-Soo abroad, but in reality, he had ordered the secretary to kill her. Yi Hyan hung up the phone. A man in a helmet approached. It was revealed to be reporter Park. Just as Hee-Soo was on the brink of death, a motorcycle sped after the car she was in. After intercepting the vehicle, the rider knocked the driver unconscious and roused Hee-Soo. Hee-Soo groggily opened her eyes. Her savior was T-Ra. Once fully awake, Hee-Soo saw T-Ra beside her. T-Ra revealed Yi Hyan's plan to kill her. The reason Do Jin did nothing was because Yi Hyan was blackmailing him with the knowledge of his father's involvement in the former president's assassination. Do Jin believed Hee-Soo was being sent abroad. He was completely unaware of the truth. Yi Hyan intended to have her killed discreetly. T-Ra also confessed to Hee-Soo that she was the assassin number 50 Hee-Soo had been searching for. It was Yi Hyan who transformed her from number 50 into T-Ra. Clearly, Yi Hyan was the mastermind behind everything. He had even watched Hee-Soo marry Do Jin, subsequently placing T-Ra by her side as a friend. All of this was orchestrated to fulfill his revenge against Do Jin's father. After revealing the truth, T-Ra apologized to Hee-Soo. But Hee-Soo's parents were dead. The apology came far too late. Hee-Soo slapped T-Ra, who silently endured it. To atone, she was willing to pay any price. Hee-Soo wanted T-Ra to return to Yi Hyan's side and live a life even more miserable than before. She wanted T-Ra to experience the pain she had endured throughout her life. Meanwhile, Sung Chan left his research in the lab and activated the surveillance cameras to check the results. He noticed his coffee cup, which was clearly in his hand, appearing on the lab's real-time monitoring feed. This meant someone had tampered with the surveillance system. Sung Chan rebooted the system. He saw Jio Jin's mother helping Jio Jin escape. Sung Chan immediately triggered the alarm and ordered all exits blocked. Jio Jin heard the alarm and knew Sung Chan had discovered his plan. He quickly hacked the system, disabled the alarm, and bravely fought off the security personnel. He eventually escaped to the third basement level, but security was closing in. Just as Jio Jin was about to be discovered, T-Ra appeared and helped him evade the guards. After escaping, T-Ra asked Jio Jin why he left in such a hurry. Jio Jin's mother revealed the truth about Jio Jin's traffic accident, which also involved Sung Chan. Now she couldn't trust Sung Chan either. After saying that, she quickly took Jio Jin away from the place. She brought him to a safe location and told him that his father had suffered a stroke and was hospitalized. At the same time, Du Jin's father, lying in his hospital bed, dreamt of years ago when Hee-Soo's father became president. He had decided to stop the police investigation into Du Jin's father, but in return, Du Jin's father had to give up his ambition for power in Korea. This was because he was the first and last friend to protect Du Jin's father. Du Jin's father opened his eyes in surprise. He immediately contacted the assassin to call off the hit, but the tragedy had already occurred. A bullet pierced Hee-Soo's father's chest. Du Jin's father woke up from the dream. Du Jin's mother was by his side. She knew everything was her husband's fault, and he had to pay the price. She then presented him with an agreement to relinquish his assets and holdings, and held his hand as he placed his fingerprint on it. Because Jio Jin escaped, Yi Hyan went to the lab. He was furious and started smashing things. Sung Chan still found it hard to believe that the man who had been in a coma for 7 years could crack his system. At that moment, words appeared on the computer screen, left by Jio Jin. "Return the company to me. Where is Soo Young?" After Du Jin heard this, he also immediately went to the lab. The three of them analyzed the current situation. It seemed that Jio Jin had woken up earlier, but had pretended to be in a coma, secretly eavesdropping on their conversations. This was enough to prove that Jio Jin didn't trust them. Now, these words left on the computer were a declaration of war. Jio Jin definitely wanted to find out the truth behind Soo Young's death. The three men's memories went back 7 years. At that time, Soo Young was a test subject. Jio Jin had always opposed human experimentation, but Yi Hyan and the others kept it a secret from him and started experimenting on Soo Young. He even deceived Soo Young, making her and Jio Jin believe she had consented to the experiment. The experiment began. Yi Hyan held the camera, and Sung Chan began the procedure. Sung Chan continued to increase the stimulation on Soo Young's paralyzed legs, which had started to react, slowly regaining movement. The three of them were blinded by this apparent success. Ignoring Soo Young's screams of pain, they continued to increase the stimulation. Soo Young repeatedly cried out that she couldn't take it anymore, but they thought it was just a rejection response. Suddenly, Soo Young convulsed and fell to the ground, dead. The three of them were terrified. After quickly cleaning up the scene, Soo Young's body was taken away. The three couldn't help but blame each other, each claiming it was the other's responsibility. Du Jin worried that this secret would eventually be exposed. At this time, Jio Jin called and asked where Soo Young was. Yi Hyan made up an excuse and promised to participate in the cross-country race the next day as promised. After hanging up, Yi Hyan proposed that whoever came in last in tomorrow's cross-country race would be fully responsible for handling this matter. The next day, during the race, Jio Jin had an accident and fell off a cliff. At that time, Du Jin and Sung Chan, intent on winning, didn't stop to check on Jio Jin. Now, analyzing it again, Sung Chan thought Jio Jin's accident was very suspicious. By then, Yi Hyan had disposed of Soo Young's body. Du Jin and Sung Chan still didn't know exactly how he had done it. After Jiao-jin escaped, he met T-Ra leaving the lab. He looked much better. Jiao-jin told T-Ra that he was the founder of the company. All the experiments conducted by the company were based on his theories. 7 years ago, Jiao-jin suspected someone had stolen his USB drive containing his data. These words immediately made T-Ra think of Sung Chan. Thinking back, after obtaining the documents, Sung Chan became the director of the research institute. He had a motive to kill Jiao-jin, but who the specific killer was remained uncertain. Jiao-jin only knew that among those 3 people, someone had definitely sabotaged his motorcycle, intending to kill him. T-Ra gave a copy of the Hanon building data to the bodyguard, which included records of meetings between Yi Hyan and the director. The bodyguard then took the data to Representative Han. He provided Representative Han with sufficient evidence showing that Yi Hyan and the director had collaborated on human experimentation. In return, the bodyguard asked Representative Han to prevent Yi Hyan from becoming president. He also demanded that the investigation into his suspected murder involvement be stopped. Representative Han immediately agreed. Soon after, at the presidential campaign hall, Representative Han presented the evidence on the spot, proving that Yi Hyan and Hanon Hospital were conducting human experiments and were collaborating. The evidence was irrefutable, and Yi Hyan couldn't deny it. The other candidates chose to form an alliance, forcing Yi Hyan to withdraw from the election. Yi Hyan quickly discovered that the bodyguard had approached Representative Han. He guessed that the bodyguard had given the evidence to Representative Han. Furious with the bodyguard for causing trouble, Yi Hyan immediately ordered his secretary to eliminate him. T-Ra anticipated that the bodyguard's life would be in danger. She urged him to take his daughter abroad to avoid the impending threat. Her friends abroad would help him. Reluctantly, T-Ra saw her daughter and brother off. Now, she had to face Yi Hyan. Yi Hyan was driving alone when he suddenly saw someone appear in front of him. It was Hee Soo. Not long ago, the bodyguard had contacted Hee Soo, telling her the truth about the former president's death. The killer wasn't T-Ra, but the bodyguard himself. Hee Soo refused to listen to the bodyguard's explanation. She had repeatedly dismissed him, but he persisted in finding her and revealing the truth. Back then, they had no choice but to follow orders. Now, to help him atone, T-Ra was acting like a fool. She planned to reveal to the world that she was number 50. So Hee Soo went to Yi Hyan. She claimed that Du Jin wanted to kill her. "Yi Hyan, please save me," she pleaded before fainting. Yi Hyan's face was filled with suspicion. He took Hee Soo to a hotel, intending to question her when she woke up. Hee Soo said she knew that Du Jin's father had hired someone to kill her father to cover up the truth. Du Jin had bribed the secretary and wanted to silence her. Hee Soo also reminded Yi Hyan that T-Ra was number 50, the one who killed her father. He surely knew nothing about his wife's secret identity. Although Yi Hyan's face remained expressionless, he felt a pang of fear in his heart. Du Jin had wanted Yi Hyan to send Hee Soo abroad, but Yi Hyan had wanted to eliminate her. Now that his plan had failed, Yi Hyan was worried. Meanwhile, T-Ra and Jiao-jin snuck into Sung Chan's house to steal the USB drive containing the research results. Upon arriving, T-Ra installed a camera on a cabinet. Unexpectedly, Sung Chan suddenly returned home. She had to hide in a corner. However, she accidentally bumped into a decorative object, and Sung Chan heard the faint noise. He suspected someone had broken in. Just as Sung Chan was heading towards T-Ra's hiding spot, Jiao-jin called him, creating a distraction for T-Ra. While Jiao-jin diverted his attention, T-Ra went upstairs. Upon returning home, she slammed all their photos to the ground, shattering them into pieces. She had taken their daughter far away because neither she nor Yi Hyan were fit to be parents, not unless Yi Hyan withdrew from the election. Only by confessing their crimes together could they stand before their daughter with a clear conscience. Of course, Yi Hyan wouldn't budge. He had another plan. He returned to the hotel and told Hee Soo that he had been truly unaware of T-Ra's true nature. Now T-Ra had taken his daughter, wanted him to confess and accept punishment, destroying everything he had built. The more Yi Hyan spoke, the more indignant he became, his face contorted in pain. Hee Soo stepped forward, encouraging him not to give in. Just then, his secretary called. Yi Hyan deliberately answered in front of Hee Soo, yelling about needing to find his daughter. At this, a contemptuous smile played on Hee Soo's lips. The performance was pathetic. At daybreak, T-Ra received the news. Her bodyguard and daughter had successfully gone abroad. With this enormous weight lifted from her shoulders, T-Ra went to the police station and confessed. She admitted to stalking the director and implicated Yi Hyun as an accomplice who helped her conceal evidence. The police immediately reported the incident to Representative Han. Representative Han was overjoyed. The moment he hung up, he began celebrating with his campaign team. This was enough to completely destroy Yi Hyun. News of T-Ra's confession reached Yi Hyun. He was in despair. His carefully constructed political career lay in ruins. His campaign team was also deeply disappointed in him. Reporter Park began to ask for his resignation, unwilling to help him any further. Worse, their clandestine meetings had been witnessed by Do Jin. He had overheard Yi Hyun bribing Reporter Park, secretly betraying Hee Soo. As a result, Do Jin brought a group of people to surround and assault Reporter Park. Hee Soo also heard about T-Ra's confession. She went to the police station to see T-Ra. With no one else present, the two women discussed their plan. It turned out that after T-Ra had confided in Hee Soo, everything that unfolded had been orchestrated by Hee Soo, including T-Ra taking her daughter and confessing to stalking the director, while deliberately omitting the attempted assassination of the former president. At this point, Hee Soo rebuked T-Ra, accusing her of deception, because the person who shot the former president wasn't T-Ra, but the bodyguard. Seeing that Hee Soo knew the truth, T-Ra knelt and begged her to spare the bodyguard. He had been only 10 years old at the time, completely unaware of what he was doing. She had abandoned her post, which led the director to order the boy to shoot. Hee Soo said nothing more because by then, she had already forgiven T-Ra. They were both victims, and the true culprits were the wicked individuals who orchestrated this tragedy. Hee Soo said she would get T-Ra out, and then they would deal with Yi Hyun together. While pretending to be Yi Hyun's ally, Hee Soo had been secretly driving a wedge between him and his secretary. She mentioned that he had privately engaged a top doctor, hoping to hasten Do Jin's father's recovery. As Yi Hyun worried, he suddenly recalled Hee Soo's words. She wanted him to save T-Ra and then hand her over to Hee Soo to deal with. An idea struck Yi Hyun, and he went to his computer and began typing. No matter what, he had to control the narrative. Afterward, Yi Hyun took his secretary aside. The secretary hoped Yi Hyun would keep his promise to grant him shares in the Kyumju Corporation, preventing them from falling entirely into Jyo Jin's mother's hands. Yi Hyun reaffirmed his commitment, assuring the secretary he wouldn't forget their agreement. Then, as a test, he inquired about Do Jin's father's condition, asking if he remained in a coma. The secretary answered confidently, confirming he had instructed the doctor to prevent Do Jin's father from regaining consciousness. This contradicted the information Hee Soo had provided. However, in the current circumstances, Yi Hyun seemed more inclined to believe the secretary was lying. Yi Hyun then went to see Chief Zhou. With a wave of his hand, Chief Zhou and his subordinates were all recruited into the presidential campaign team. After Yi Hyun's persuasive lobbying, Chief Zhou, with his uncertain future and yearning for a life of glamour and luxury, agreed to his demands. Yi Hyun's first directive was to rescue T-Ra. This rescue wasn't a direct confrontation. Instead, Chief Zhou went to the police and promptly reported the case, framing the secretary for the director's murder, presenting a wealth of compelling evidence. He even employed AI technology to alter the video of his meeting with the director, replacing his own face with the secretary's. The evidence was irrefutable, leaving the secretary with no defense. He realized Yi Hyun had abandoned him. The secretary suddenly collapsed in the interrogation room, dying on the spot. Having caused such a commotion, Yi Hyun triumphantly brought T-Ra home. He placed her under house arrest, forbidding her from leaving. He warned T-Ra against any further tricks, threatening that the next to suffer would be the person she cared about most, either Hee Soo or the bodyguard. Yi Hyun was obsessed with T-Ra. He had invested considerable effort in creating their seemingly perfect family. He was determined to have both his wife and daughter by his side at his future presidential inauguration. Worried that Yi Hyun would discover her daughter's location abroad, T-Ra immediately instructed the bodyguard to move her. Her daughter cried on the phone, saying she wanted to see her father and blaming T-Ra. Hearing this, T-Ra's heart ached. Now aligned with Yi Hyun, Chief Zhou was the one who had eliminated the secretary. He used a poison needle developed by Hanun. It dissolved upon entering the body, causing an immediate spike in blood pressure, mimicking a heart attack. Yi Hyan gave Chief Zhou a new task: find his daughter. While ensuring her safety, the bodyguard could be dealt with as Chief Zhou saw fit. Yi Hyan then held a press conference, declaring that T-Ra was suffering from delusions. He would suspend his campaign to care for his wife. Yi Hyan's display of responsibility boosted his approval ratings, and his campaign team regained their spirits. With T-Ra confined, Jiao Jin couldn't contact her, so he risked a visit to her house. During their meeting, Jiao Jin learned that Yi Hyan, in an effort to protect T-Ra, had eliminated the secretary. He deduced that Yi Hyan was systematically eliminating those who knew his secrets for T-Ra's safety. Jiao Jin gave her a tracking device. Yi Hyan's company was scheduled to give a presentation on a smart chip soon. That day, Sung Chan invited the paralyzed basketball player to have a smart chip implanted. Afterward, he initiated the program, gradually increasing the stimulation, enabling the athlete to slowly move his legs and even stand up. Applause erupted. Sung Chan increased the settings to the maximum, encouraging the athlete to take a couple of steps. But then, the program suddenly malfunctioned, and the athlete screamed, collapsing to the ground. Chaos ensued. Yi Hyan confidently stepped onto the stage and invited another participant, Jiao Jin, who had been in a coma not long ago. Du Jin had located Dr. H. Wang, Jiao Jin's attending physician. Exploiting Dr. H. Wang's weaknesses, Du Jin threatened him to prevent Jiao Jin from attending the presentation. Thus, when Dr. H. Wang injected Jiao Jin, Du Jin caught him in the act. Jiao Jin struggled to reach the presentation, but he was ambushed by Dr. Zhang beforehand. He was rendered unconscious in his car and brought to the venue. Yi Hyan implanted the chip into Jiao Jin. After some adjustments, Jiao Jin awoke. Yi Hyan announced to the audience that Jiao Jin had been in a vegetative state for 7 years and was now revived thanks to the implants. He blamed Sung Chan's nervousness for the previous participant's failure. Yi Hyan asked Jiao Jin to share his thoughts. Instead of exposing Yi Hyan, Jiao Jin played along, expressing his gratitude to Yi Hyan and the other two, urging the audience to applaud these three heroes. The events of the presentation created a rift between Yi Hyan and Sung Chan. Sung Chan warned Yi Hyan that he knew Yi Hyan had poisoned Yu Ra. He still possessed Yi Hyan's blood-stained watch. Yi Hyan remained unfazed, as he held evidence against Sung Chan regarding Jiao Jin's accident 7 years prior. He knew Sung Chan had tampered with Jiao Jin's brakes after the initial accident, and had even checked to see if Jiao Jin was dead. They held each other hostage with this information. Sung Chan raged but could do nothing. After the presentation, T-Ra followed Dr. Ya Young on her motorcycle, arriving at what appeared to be a laboratory. Dr. Ya Young was suffering from a headache, crying out in pain. T-Ra hid and observed. Dr. Ya Young seemed to notice T-Ra and walked towards her. Suddenly, Yi Hyan appeared and injected Dr. Ya Young with something. Dr. Ya Young convulsed, asking Yi Hyan, "Where am I? Where's Jiao Jin?" Yi Hyan administered another injection. Hidden in the shadows, T-Ra accidentally made a noise and fled the laboratory. She went to meet He Su. While waiting, T-Ra called Jiao Jin, recounting what she had witnessed. Sensing something was amiss with Dr. Ya Young, she decided to return to the laboratory with Jiao Jin. T-Ra left a note for He Su, asking her to wait. A while later, T-Ra returned to the lab. Dr. Ya Young's cries echoed again. T-Ra entered to investigate. Suddenly, both Dr. Ya Young and Yi Hyan appeared, attacking her. Dr. Ya Young knocked T-Ra unconscious. Her phone clattered to the floor, revealing an ongoing call from Jiao Jin. Enraged, Yi Hyan crushed the phone. He Su arrived at the meeting point. Finding the note, she grew worried about T-Ra and immediately went looking for her. At the same time, Jiao Jin also rushed towards T-Ra's location. Moments later, T-Ra groggily opened her eyes, finding herself strapped to an operating table. She gradually lost consciousness. Yi Hyan and Dr. Ya Young worked together to sedate T-Ra. They were preparing to implant a chip into her. This way, T-Ra would forget recent events and revert to being the perfect wife and mother she once was. They wheeled T-Ra into the operating room. Yi Hyan eagerly donned a white coat. Just then, Dr. Ya Young experienced another headache. She remembered Jiao Jin's words. The chip project was incomplete, and human trials could be detrimental to T-Ra's health. If they weren't careful, her head could explode from the strain. But Yi Hyan didn't care. He only wanted to reclaim his semblance of a perfect family. A long time ago, for that fleeting moment of warmth, he spared no expense. With that, Yi Hyan ordered Dr. Jia Young to be silent and cooperate fully to complete the surgery. Desperate, Dr. Jia Young had no choice but to comply. Hee Su, unable to reach T-Ra, was suddenly gripped by a sense of foreboding. She rushed to T-Ra's house only to see Yi Hyan returning home nearby. She was about to approach him when Du Jin pulled her away. Still wary of Yi Hyan, Du Jin didn't want Hee Su anywhere near him. As Hee Su hurried away, Du Jin offered to help her with her troubles, urging her to stay away from Yi Hyan. Du Jin confessed his true feelings, frankly admitting his worry for Hee Su. He explained that his ruthlessness and decisiveness in front of his father was all an act. Du Jin's sincerity finally reached Hee Su. She voiced her concerns, fearing that Yi Hyan was plotting against T-Ra. The next day, the three friends reunited, feigning their former camaraderie in front of the media. Yi Hyan was preparing to position Sung Chan as the company's representative. This way, he and Du Jin could support his presidential bid. They couldn't refuse because Yi Hyan held leverage over them. With the friendship charade in place, the next step was to manage the family situation. Soon after, T-Ra woke up. Yi Hyan told her she had fallen at Yu-Ra's shop, hitting her head and losing consciousness, but that she was now out of danger. As they spoke, a car pulled up to the villa. Chief Zhou had brought his bodyguard and daughter back home. The daughter happily ran inside, while Chief Zhou took the bodyguard away. T-Ra mistakenly believed her daughter had been traveling with Yu-Ra, but her daughter informed her that Yu-Ra was dead. T-Ra was shocked. Yi Hyan embraced her, comforting her while implanting false memories. Reassured by T-Ra's apparent acceptance, Yi Hyan felt at ease. The election was 5 days away. Yi Hyan hosted a party at his home. T-Ra, elegantly dressed, accompanied him in greeting the guests. Hee Su felt a strange unease as T-Ra approached. What happened to T-Ra? Hee Su wondered. Could she have forgotten their plan? But T-Ra seemed confused by Hee Su's question. At that moment, Yi Hyan arrived and whisked T-Ra away under some pretext. He exposed Hee Su's deception. In reality, Yi Hyan had long known about Hee Su and T-Ra's plot against him. But now, the charade was over, as T-Ra had completely forgotten her negative memories of Yi Hyan. He would take good care of her and protect their perfect family. As he dismissed Hee Su, Jiao Jin suddenly appeared. Upon seeing T-Ra, he anxiously asked if she was alright. They had planned to meet that day to search for Dr. Yi Young. Why hadn't T-Ra shown up? Faced with Jiao Jin's barrage of questions, T-Ra remained clueless. Yi Hyan reappeared, warning Jiao Jin not to overstep his boundaries. He had barely survived himself, and Jiao Jin shouldn't risk losing his mother by meddling. Jiao Jin seemed to understand something and turned to leave in anger. During the party, T-Ra's daughter clicked on a picture of the bodyguard, but T-Ra didn't recognize him. Yi Hyan explained that the man in the picture was a bodyguard she hadn't liked and had dismissed. T-Ra nodded, unsuspecting. At this point, Du Jin discreetly approached T-Ra. They exchanged a few words, and he subtly used a device to detect a chip in her head. The results confirmed the presence of a brain implant. Du Jin immediately informed Hee Su, speculating that the chip was likely from Han Wu, a product of Jiao Jin and So Young's research designed to erase memories, though the results had been inconclusive. Why, then, had Yi Hyan and Dr. Yi Young managed to implement it successfully? She and T-Ra recalled Yi Hyan secretly hiding Dr. Yi Young's ID card. Why was it so important to him? Hee Su had a daring suspicion. Dr. Ya Young was actually So Young. Today, Jiao Jin attended a party while T-Ra was absent from the Kiamju Group's shareholders meeting. Jiao Jin's mother attended alone, only to be surprised by the unexpected appearance of Du Jin's father. Not long ago, Du Jin's father had received a signed document from his secretary. Inside, he found information about assassin number 50, including an audio recording revealing that the assassin had murdered the former president. This assassin was now Yi Hyan's wife. Du Jin's father scoffed, then appeared at the shareholders' meeting to oust Jiao Jin and his mother from the company. He played surveillance footage of himself in his hospital room, showing Jiao Jin's mother coercing him into signing a share transfer agreement. The shareholders erupted in chaos. Jiao Jin's mother was unable to defend herself and Du Jin's father reclaimed his authority. He announced he would continue as chairman and appointed Du Jin as vice chairman. Returning home in defeat, Jiao Jin's mother was furious. She unleashed her anger on Jiao Jin for his absence at the meeting. Jiao Jin had spent the day searching for a skilled neuroscientist to remove the chip. His focus was solely on saving T-Ra. He had no interest in the Kaimju group. Hearing this, his mother accused him of betraying her. During his coma, she had protected his shares and fought Du Jin's father. Now, he was discarding her hard work for T-Ra. Did he have feelings for her? Jiao Jin immediately denied this, accusing his mother of using him as a pawn for her own ambitions. His accusations only fueled her rage. After Jiao Jin left, his mother muttered anxiously, "Only perfection is worthy of Jiao Jin." When Jiao Jin was 13, his father had gifted him a bicycle. Because Jiao Jin cherished it, his mother had destroyed it. She had to make everything of his perfect. That evening, before bed, Yi Haiyan reminded T-Ra to take her medication. She obediently put the pill in her mouth. Just then, Yi Haiyan's phone received a message, "Specimen 2 is missing." He immediately grabbed his phone and rushed out, claiming he had something to take care of. After he left, T-Ra removed the pill from her mouth. Her eyes regained their former sharpness, and her memory flashed back to the night of her abduction. Just before Yi Haiyan had implanted the chip, T-Ra, in a moment of lucidity, had spoken to Dr. Yi Young, revealing her true identity as So Young. They were both victims of Yi Haiyan's deception. These words caused Dr. Yi Young to hesitate during the memory wiping procedure. Suddenly, a headache struck, and flashes of Yi Haiyan experimenting on her flooded her mind. Regaining her memory, she quickly aborted the procedure and sabotaged the program. Unable to bear it any longer, she directly confronted Yi Haiyan. Realizing Dr. Yi Young's memory had returned, Yi Haiyan ordered his men to take her away. He then returned to the computer to complete the memory wiping process. However, due to Dr. Yi Young's interference, T-Ra retained her memories. Her obedience to Yi Haiyan was a calculated act. Hearing that Du Jin's father had regained control, Yi Haiyan confronted him. But Du Jin's father was no longer afraid, as he now held leverage over Yi Haiyan. He played the recording of T-Ra hissing at the former president. It was a critical blow. Yi Haiyan could only grit his teeth and endure it. Elsewhere, reporter Park informed Du Jin that Hee Soo had resigned. It seemed she had other plans. Du Jin quickly called Hee Soo. She sounded desperate, declaring her intention to end everything. The previous night, she had purchased a handgun on the black market. Hee Soo arrived at the villa and aimed the gun at Yi Haiyan. She pulled the trigger, but at the crucial moment, T-Ra jumped in front of Yi Haiyan, taking the bullet. As Yi Haiyan stood in shock, a truck suddenly barreled towards them. He pulled T-Ra aside, narrowly avoiding the impact. The guards pulled a woman from the car. It was Dr. Yi Young, who had escaped. She was pale and gaunt, veins bulging from torture. She cried out T-Ra's name, wanting to tell her about the bodyguard, but was struck unconscious before she could speak and dragged away. Yi Haiyan ordered T-Ra taken to the hospital. He seemed to catch a glimpse of Hee Soo. Spotted by Yi Haiyan, Hee Soo was luckily rescued by reporter Park, who whisked her away. Yi Haiyan looked closer, but Hee Soo was gone. Preoccupied, he helped T-Ra into the ambulance. When he turned back, the car carrying Dr. Yi Young had vanished. He was unaware that Sung Chan was the one who drove her away. Soon after, T-Ra awoke. She asked Yi Haiyan who had driven the truck that hit them. He blamed Dr. Yi Young, claiming she had been fired for stealing data from the lab and was seeking revenge. Just then, Sung Chan called to inform Yi Haiyan that he had Dr. Yi Young, or rather, So Young, in his custody. Yi Haiyan immediately rushed to meet him. After Yi Haiyan left, Hee Soo visited T-Ra. Tears streamed down her face as she expressed remorse. T-Ra's accidental injury made her question her revenge plan. She apologized. If T-Ra was truly happy, Hee Soo was willing to stop. Seeing Hee Soo's self-reproach, T-Ra revealed that she had never lost her memory. She had kept it a secret to protect Hee Soo from danger. Hearing this, Hee Soo decided to abandon her revenge. She wouldn't lose a precious friend for it. Meanwhile, Yi Haiyan met with Sung Chan, who had discovered Yi Haiyan's secret laboratory where illegal human experiments were being conducted. Sung Chan, holding leverage, bargained with Yi Hyan. Yi Hyan argued, once you become president, human experimentation will be legalized. He also promised to appoint Sung Chan as Minister of Science and Technology. Satisfied, Sung Chan left Dr. Yi Young imprisoned. After Sung Chan's departure, Yi Hyan entered another room where the bodyguard was being held captive. He began experimenting on him. Since discovering Hee Su's revenge plot against Yi Hyan, Du Jin had become determined to save her. He saw only one way, to bring down his father. He sought out his brother, Jiao Jin, and joined forces with him. Jiao Jin showed Du Jin the video of the incident at Yi Hyan's house and told him that Dr. Yi Young was So Young. If Du Jin felt any remorse for So Young, he should atone for his past actions. Du Jin then noticed something on the street surveillance cameras. Sung Chan's car had been following the truck. He likely knew Dr. Yi Young's whereabouts. After considering his brother's words, Du Jin went to T. Ra's house. He resolved to go to the prosecutor's office and reveal everything. T. Ra then produced a USB drive containing evidence proving the Hannan Hospital director ran an assassination ring, with Du Jin's father's involvement. Regarding Dr. Yi Young, T. Ra told him about Yi Hyan's secret lab and the illegal experiments, where the bodyguard was likely being held. Du Jin suspected Sung Chan knew about the lab, so T. Ra had given him a bugged watch. With everything in place, Du Jin went to the prosecutor's office and exposed his father's crimes. The prosecutors immediately took Du Jin's father into custody. During interrogation, they presented detailed evidence proving he had used the Z Company to purchase the sapphire necklace, bribed the Hannan Hospital director, and ordered the assassination of the former president. The evidence was irrefutable. Du Jin's father frantically contacted Yi Hyan, threatening to take him down with him. But Yi Hyan was unfazed. He now possessed the evidence Du Jin's father had used against him, the proof of T. Ra being assassin number 50. He was no longer afraid. Du Jin's father was trapped. Du Jin urged him to confess and cooperate with the law. He even played a recording of a conversation between them, where Du Jin's father admitted to orchestrating the former president's assassination. Immediately following this, Du Jin held a press conference, confessing all the crimes his father had committed. He further revealed that all of Yi Hyan's company's previous research projects were illegal. Just as Du Jin was about to elaborate on the experimental chimpanzee that died because of Yi Hyan, a group of people stormed in. Du Jin was arrested on the spot on charges of embezzlement. Yi Hyan wasn't surprised to hear of Du Jin's arrest. It's likely he orchestrated it. Yi Hyan knew it was time to leak the video of his rival, Representative Han. Previously, Du Jin's father, possessing compromising information about T. Ra, had met privately with Representative Han and formed a partnership. They intended to use this to control Yi Hyan. Unfortunately, Yi Hyan had obtained the video of their meeting. He planned to use it to bring down Representative Han. While Du Jin was detained, Jiao Jin independently investigated Dr. Zhang's whereabouts. He found the truck driver, who claimed the truck had been stolen while parked at a temple. So, Jiao Jin went to the temple. He discovered the temple's electricity bill was unusually high. Just then, Jiao Jin received news of Du Jin's arrest and rushed back. Chief Zhou happened to see his car driving by. Jiao Jin inquired about Du Jin's situation. It turned out Du Jin's father had transferred ownership of Z Company to him. But Du Jin hadn't been back at the company long enough to embezzle such a large sum of money. Jiao Jin suspected Yi Hyan was behind it. His suspicions were confirmed when his own mother revealed the truth. Jiao Jin's mother was collaborating with Yi Hyan. The land the temple was built on belonged to her, and Yi Hyan was conducting experiments there. In return, he promised to help her gain control of the entire Jumjo group and, during his presidency, to leave the Jumjo group untouched while also protecting Jiao Jin. T. Ra, standing outside the temple, overheard their conversation and finally discovered who had leaked the information. She accidentally made a noise, nearly alerting Yi Hyan to her presence. T. Ra returned and told Jiao Jin the news. The two of them joined forces. Jiao Jin had a heated argument with his mother, nearly severing their relationship. He made his stance clear. He would do everything in his power to oppose the Jumjo group. Seeing her son's determination, Jiao Jin's mother wasn't deterred. She used T. Ra's assassin past to threaten him, knowing Jiao Jin had feelings for her. If he truly wanted to protect T. Ra, he should stop immediately. The next day, Jiao Jin returned to the temple. First, he cut the power to the laboratory. Sung Chan hurried over. Jiao Jin watched from the shadows, waiting until Sung Chan opened the lab door. He knocked Sung Chan unconscious and slipped inside. However, Sung Chan wasn't actually unconscious. After Jiao Jin left, he immediately got up and called Yi Haiyan for further instructions. Unexpectedly, Yi Haiyan ordered him to blow up the entire laboratory. He showed no concern for the other test subjects. T-Ra was tracking Sung Chan through his watch. Hearing the call, she immediately drove to the lab. Inside, Jiao Jin found the bodyguard and the doctor. T-Ra also managed to contact the bodyguard and urged him to leave immediately. But Sung Chan had blocked all exits and detonated the explosives, causing the laboratory to explode. T-Ra arrived to see only a raging inferno. Distraught, she fell to her knees in anguish. In stark contrast to T-Ra's grief, Yi Haiyan was celebrating his successful presidential election. T-Ra stared at the flames, left to weep in despair. However, T-Ra didn't wallow in her sorrow. She composed herself, transforming into the image of a virtuous and supportive wife. Carrying flowers, she headed to the press conference. After Yi Haiyan's election victory, T-Ra presented her husband with flowers and congratulated him with a hug. Their loving display made all the reporters envious. But T-Ra was crying. Though others saw tears of joy, only T-Ra knew they were for those trapped in the lab. At that moment, news of the temple explosion arrived, diverting the reporters' attention. T-Ra excused herself to the restroom, recalling her last phone call with her bodyguard before the explosion. Jiao Jin had sensed danger. By chance, Su-young knew a secret escape route, and the three of them were making their way towards it. During the call, T-Ra could tell from his voice that the bodyguard was weak. He pleaded with her, no matter what happened to him, to stop seeking revenge and live well under her current identity. Before T-Ra could respond, an explosion echoed from the other end of the line. The bodyguard's voice was gone. He was likely dead. T-Ra had no time to confirm. The next day, Yi Haiyan's first task after taking office was to inspect the ruins of the temple explosion. T-Ra's heart pounded. She still held a sliver of hope because one body had been recovered from the scene, though its identity remained unconfirmed. Taking advantage of Yi Haiyan's absence, T-Ra quietly inquired about the situation with the police investigating the scene, but Yi Haiyan kept a close watch on her. He soon returned, forcing T-Ra to feign innocence. She claimed she wanted to decorate a memorial room for the deceased. T-Ra prayed in the temple. Her surveillance earpiece transmitted a conversation between Yi Haiyan and Sung Chan. As expected, the lab explosion was their doing. To reward Sung Chan for successfully orchestrating the explosion, Yi Haiyan gave him the original record of the off-road vehicle accident, saying that Jiao Jin's mother couldn't find out about his death. From their conversation, T-Ra learned that the deceased included not only Jiao Jin and Su-young, but also her bodyguard. Yi Haiyan explained he wanted the bodyguard dead simply because he disliked him. The two conspirators chatted and laughed, complacently trampling on human lives to achieve their goals. Meanwhile, to save the arrested Du Jin, his father chose self-destruction. He handed over the entire company under Dr. Zhang's name, effectively clearing Du Jin of embezzlement charges. Du Jin visited his father in prison. During their conversation, Du Jin's father revealed the truth about the former president's death years ago. He confessed to killing the former president under pressure from Jiao Jin's mother. At the time, the former president was investigating Jumjo Group's scandal. To protect the family business, Jiao Jin's mother placed a box of jewels before Du Jin's father, demanding he eliminate the former president. Back then, Du Jin's father was merely a son-in-law with no real power, so he complied. Du Jin couldn't accept this explanation. He felt his father was shifting the blame onto his mother. Furious and heartbroken by this truth, especially given his always gentle demeanor towards his mother, Du Jin stormed off. At the same time, Hee-Soo returned to the television station and resumed her role as an anchor. That evening, she participated in a news program and revealed a video provided by an anonymous source. The video exposed Yi Haiyan's lab research. Hee-Soo made a pointed commentary. Their research involved human experimentation, strictly prohibited by the state. The lab's land had been donated to the temple by Jiao Jin's mother. Thus, Hee-Soo implied the secret lab was connected to Jumjo Group. Later, T-Ra met with Gyojin's mother and gave her Gyojin's burnt wallet. She confessed that Gyojin hadn't gone abroad but had been trapped in the temple fire. Gyojin's mother's heart trembled. Could Gyojin really be dead? But T-Ra wasn't certain. She urged Gyojin's mother to personally investigate the truth of his fate. Yi Hyan and Sung Chan watched Hee-Su's broadcast about who leaked the lab video. Clueless, they decided to apprehend and interrogate Hee-Su. Through a surveillance earpiece, T-Ra learned of their plan to harm Hee-Su. She immediately called Hee-Su, but it was too late. Hee-Su didn't have time to answer. Chief Joe knocked her unconscious. However, at the critical moment, Du Jin appeared, confronting Chief Joe. He wanted to save Hee-Su. That evening, T-Ra drugged Yi Hyan, putting him into a deep sleep. Then, she accessed his computer and found the motorcycle accident video stored in an encrypted file. The next day, T-Ra took this short video and the recording of Yi Hyan's conversation with Sang Chan after the explosion to Gyojin's mother. The undeniable evidence forced her to accept the reality of Gyojin's death. Watching Gyojin's mother's hysteria, T-Ra felt no pity. Gyojin's mother's own ambition had made her complicit in his murder. If she hadn't wanted to reclaim Jumjo and collaborated with Yi Hyan, Gyojin wouldn't have died so tragically. Overwhelmed with guilt, Gyojin's mother revealed Yi Hyan's slush fund account book and personally handed it to Du Jin on the day of Yi Hyan's inauguration. She then confronted Sung Chan, accusing him of orchestrating the temple bombing and effectively killing Gyojin twice. Sung Chan remained unafraid. With Yi Hyan as president and his backing, Sung Chan believed himself untouchable. He even mocked Gyojin's mother, calling it a lesson for her. In a fit of rage, she grabbed a shard of glass from the table and killed him. But Gyojin's mother's revenge wasn't complete. She went to the backstage area of Yi Hyan's inauguration. As she lunged at him with a sharp object, he overpowered her, knocking her unconscious. With the ceremony about to begin, Yi Hyan didn't have time to deal with her. He casually tied her up, planning to take care of her after the event. Yi Hyan straightened his appearance and confidently entered the main hall. But the atmosphere felt strange. Then, he saw the large screen replaying the footage of his attack on Gyojin's mother. Surrounded and exposed, his face went rigid. Hee-Su and Du Jin appeared, presenting irrefutable evidence of Yi Hyan's involvement with Jumjo Corporation and their illegal human experimentation. The video clearly showed Yi Hyan conducting experiments on a bodyguard, experiments that ultimately failed. Condemnation followed swiftly. The accusations included covering up failed chimpanzee experiments and causing the temple explosion. The police arrived, ready to arrest Yi Hyan. At that moment, T-Ra stepped forward, claiming his innocence. In the auditorium, she seemed to be the only one willing to believe him. The lights in the hall suddenly dimmed. Taking advantage of the darkness, T-Ra led Yi Hyan away. But this escape was part of T-Ra and Hee-Su's plan. After seeing them off, Hee-Su returned to the waiting room to check on Gyojin's mother. But she was already gone. An assistant informed Gyojin's mother that their people hadn't found Gyojin's DNA in the temple ruins. This meant he could still be alive. Yi Hyan and T-Ra sped away in a car. During the drive, T-Ra confessed that she hadn't lost her memory and had been acting all along. Tonight, T-Ra had made her final decision. She wanted to destroy Yi Hyan and the T-Ra he had created. With that, she grabbed the steering wheel and drove the car into the river. After rescuing T-Ra and bringing her ashore, Yi Hyan fell into a coma. When he awoke, he found himself restrained by the police. He asked about T-Ra, but no one around him knew who she was. Even Hee-Su, broadcasting the news on TV, referred to Yi Hyan as an unmarried president. Everything was incredibly strange, and Yi Hyan couldn't believe it. He begged to go home to check, but there was no trace of T-Ra or his daughter. Even all the photographs, large and small, only depicted Yi Hyan alone. This drove him nearly insane. Could his past life as a family of three have been nothing but a delusion? After being imprisoned, Yi Hyan was bullied by all the other inmates. They scorned him for his perceived hypocrisy and wickedness, constantly beating and berating him in various ways. Yi Hyan was sentenced to death for numerous crimes, but he still couldn't accept what was happening. Sung Chan visited Yi Hyan. His voice was completely ruined. He told Yi Hyan that the mastermind behind everything was Jiao Jin's mother. However, no one knew where she had fled. As for Yi Hyan, he constantly thought of his wife and daughter, but they seemed to have never existed. In this battle against Jiao Jin, they had lost completely, and Jiao Jin was the ultimate victor, becoming the new chairman of the company. Yi Hyan was shocked. In his memory, Jiao Jin had died in the laboratory explosion. He saw Jiao Jin on the news, showing off his mansion and preparing to use it as his honeymoon home. Jiao Jin's wedding photos were broadcast on television, and Yi Hyan realized the bride was clearly T-Ra. Yi Hyan repeatedly insisted that it was all an illusion, but Sung Chan convinced him to let go of this so-called fantasy. Yi Hyan asked Sung Chan for a favor, offering in return to take all the blame for the crimes. Not long after, during some outdoor recreation time, Yi Hyan secretly stashed a bottle of insecticide. He drank the poison and was hospitalized with severe stomach pains. Taking advantage of a moment when the doctor was distracted, Yi Hyan knocked him unconscious, stole his white coat, and escaped from prison. Sung Chan picked Yi Hyan up outside. He drove him to the mansion. Before getting out of the car, Yi Hyan recorded a video confessing to all his crimes and gave it to Sung Chan. Then, Yi Hyan returned to the mansion to find T-Ra. He saw T-Ra nestled in Jiao Jin's arms. Yi Hyan rushed forward and punched Jiao Jin, knocking him to the ground. He repeatedly told T-Ra that she was his wife. Upon hearing this, T-Ra stated her name and denied it. She insisted she wasn't T-Ra. Yi Hyan became agitated, asserting that she was his woman. At that moment, Yi Hyan woke up on the beach. It turned out that everything was a hallucination. He saw a figure walking towards him in the fog. The scene slowed down, and Yi Hyan found himself back in prison. Soon after, Yi Hyan was taken to be executed. Among his remaining belongings, he saw handcrafted items made by his daughter. He immediately struggled and insisted he wasn't crazy. But all his efforts were in vain. Just as Yi Hyan was about to suffocate, he woke up again on the beach. The figure approached him once more, offering him another chance. Yi Hyan slowly lost consciousness. Before falling into a coma, Yi Hyan still didn't know what was happening. The truth was, at this moment, he was lying on an operating table in a secret laboratory. The fragmented memories he had just experienced were implanted by Jiao Jin. This was Yi Hyan's ultimate punishment. They wanted Yi Hyan to be trapped in agony, eternally searching for T-Ra and his daughter in that empty world, with no end in sight. That day, after being rescued, Yi Hyan took T-Ra away. Jiao Jin confronted Yi Hyan. It turned out that the vague figure in Yi Hyan's subconscious was Du Jin. Jiao Jin knocked Yi Hyan unconscious and implanted a chip in him. The chip's side effect would cause his heart to stop after 24 hours. This way, they faked Yi Hyan's death so he could escape the police investigation. Before the 24 hours were up, T-Ra took Yi Hyan's body away. Afterwards, Jiao Jin's manipulations implanted painful memories of the lab fire into Yi Hyan. Only Jiao Jin had survived the fire, but half of his face was disfigured. At the time of the fire, Jiao Jin and a security guard were escaping through an emergency tunnel. Su Young was the first to succumb. Before dying, she gave Jiao Jin the video surveillance footage of the experiment. Jiao Jin, enduring his grief, continued to escape with the guard. Unexpectedly, after Jiao Jin got out, the guard closed the door. The guard asked Jiao Jin to take care of his sister and make Yi Hyan pay. The guard died in the fire. Later, T-Ra recorded a video apologizing to the public. She was also interviewed by Hee Soo. T-Ra felt guilty for not seeing through Yi Hyan's true nature. She apologized, but T-Ra was a victim herself. Yi Hyan had implanted a chip in her brain. Through this chip, Yi Hyan could control T-Ra's memories. T-Ra also admitted that her identity was fake. From now on, she wanted to live with her original identity. Everything seemed to be resolved. T-Ra decided to take her daughter abroad and have the chip surgically removed. Before leaving, T-Ra and Hee Soo hugged and said goodbye, thanking each other for being in each other's lives. Jiao Jin's mother was still missing. The police couldn't find her. She was volunteering at a temple. She received a message saying that Jiao Jin had been found. She immediately went to the lab to embrace her son. However, Jiao Jin coldly pushed her away. He couldn't accept his mother becoming like an evil woman. As they were talking, Jiao Jin's mother discovered that Yi Haiyan was still alive. Agitated, she shook Jiao Jin violently, breaking a reagent bottle. The system triggered an alarm, waking Yi Haiyan. Yi Haiyan silently picked up a chair and threw it at Jiao Jin. Jiao Jin's mother, seeing the danger, shielded her son from the fatal blow. Jiao Jin's mother was critically injured and died in her son's arms. Meanwhile, Yi Haiyan took advantage of the chaos to escape. He went to the villa where He Su was staying. While Ti-Ra was checking her luggage at home, the lights suddenly went out. A figure flashed by, prompting a curious and frightened He Su to investigate. Yi Haiyan silently followed her. He Su discovered Yi Haiyan, but he covered her mouth and she fainted. When Du Jin came looking for her, he couldn't find He Su, only a message on the mirror left by Ti-Ra. Zhou Jin immediately went to find Kyo to discuss countermeasures. In the police system, Yi Haiyan was already dead. Reporting him to the police wouldn't help. Zhou Jin decided to save He Su through Ti-Ra. At that moment, Ti-Ra was at the airport, about to leave the country. Du Jin found her and explained everything. Ti-Ra hurriedly left the airport, rushing to the address provided by Yi Haiyan, ignoring a message from Jiao Jin warning her it was a trap. Ti-Ra found Yi Haiyan and He Su at the edge of a cliff. He Su was hooded, and bombs were scattered around. Yi Haiyan had gone mad. Ti-Ra knew Yi Haiyan was obsessed with her. This beach was where Yi Haiyan had saved her and transformed her into Ti-Ra. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ti-Ra stepped forward and removed He Su's hood. She discovered that the person before her was just a mannequin, not He Su at all. At the same time, Zhou Jin found He Su. He and He Su went to the cliff. Yi Haiyan immediately grabbed Ti-Ra and held a gun to her head. He Su knelt down and pleaded with him. Yi Haiyan, please spare Ti-Ra. However, Ti-Ra remained calm. She told Yi Haiyan, kill me. You know you can't live without me. It's best we both die. A flicker of sadness crossed Yi Haiyan's face. He understood that if he killed Ti-Ra, his daughter would hate him forever. Yi Haiyan wanted to know if, in Ti-Ra's heart, he was a bad person. As he waited for her answer, Yi Haiyan softly said, Ti-Ra, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make you happy. I just wanted to see you up close one last time. As he spoke, Yi Haiyan slowly stepped backward. The moment Ti-Ra turned around, Yi Haiyan fell into the sea. Before Ti-Ra could react, the surface of the water was calm again. Several years later, Ti-Ra's life abroad was back on track. The chip in her brain had been removed, and her condition gradually improved. Everything seemed to be over. That day, Jiao Jin came to visit her. His face had returned to normal. The two excitedly reminisced about the past. Ti-Ra arranged for Jiao Jin to rest in a room. As soon as Ti-Ra left, Jiao Jin's eyes suddenly changed. He seemed to transform into a different person. Ti-Ra suddenly remembered she had forgotten to give Jiao Jin a towel. Just as she returned to give it to him, she accidentally saw Jiao Jin taking off his shirt. His back was covered in scars identical to Yi Haiyan's, and as her eyes glanced at the mirror, the face reflected wasn't Jiao Jin's, but Yi Haiyan's. The movie ends.